Welcome to Vision Expenses, entering a basic expense report. To enter an expense report in Vision, you first need to click on the Travel and Expense Self-Service tile on your Vision homepage. The Travel and Expense Self-Service Center opens, defaulted to the Create Modify Expense Report page. If you are an expense approver, your default page is your work list, and you will need to expand the Expense Report menu and click on Create Modify in Expense Report. The page defaults to the Add a New Value tab, and your employee ID number is preloaded. Click on Add. The Create Expense Report window opens. Required fields are indicated by an asterisk. Some departments require that you enter a reference. Your expense coordinator will let you know if you need to. Click on the drop-down menu and select the business purpose that most closely matches the reason you are submitting this expense report. In this case, we'll select training, enter a report description, it's not required, but you can add a destination location that will then automatically appear on each line. This can be useful if you are creating a multi-line report. If you enter the first few letters of the town or city name, the lookup feature will provide options. Now we will add an expense line. Click on the calendar icon and select the date that the expense occurred. It cannot be a future date. Click on the Expense Type menu and select the appropriate expense type. In this example, we are asking to be reimbursed for mileage. And since the trip occurred in-state, we will select in miles full. Note that once the expense type is selected, more fields appear based upon the expense type that you chose. Enter a description for the expense line. Note that the payment type defaults to employee, and that the billing type is non-taxable internal, since the expense date is within 60 days of when we are submitting the report. If you are filing an expense report more than 60 days after the expense date, it will automatically change to taxable. When submitting a mileage expense, the amount field is grayed out and will be calculated based upon the miles entered. Finally, the destination location is pre-filled as Burlington, Vermont, since we typed it in above. Enter the originating location. As before, if you enter the first few letters of the town or city name, the lookup feature will provide options. In this case, it's Montpelier. Click on the miles field and enter the total miles for the date of this expense line. If you have multiple trips on the same date, you must enter the total miles for all trips on one expense line for that date. You can list the different trips in the description field and enter the furthest location from your starting point as the destination location. Once you tab out of the miles field, the amount is calculated based upon the current IRS mileage reimbursement rate. We are now done entering an expense line for mileage reimbursement. To submit the report for approval, click on the Summary and Submit link in the upper right corner. Note that the Submit Report Expense Report button is not available. Verify that the amount is correct, and then click on the box next to the statement certifying the expenses submitted are accurate and comply with the state's expense policy, Bulletin 3.4. The Submit Expense Report button becomes available, and click on the button. The Submit Confirmation window opens. Click on OK. You will see a red text message that the expense report has been submitted and the report number and the report status has changed to Submission in Process. Click on the Refresh Approval Status button. The screen will update to include the approval history showing where the report is in the approval process. The Withdraw Expense Report button is available. This button allows you to recall the report from your expense approver's work list if you need to make changes. Once the approver has approved it, this button is no longer available. You have now completed submitting a simple one-line expense report for mileage reimbursement. To get help while working in Vision, visit our webpage at finance.vermont.gov for manuals, job aids, how-to guides, and more. If you can't find what you need there, email the help desk at vision.finhelpdesk@vermont.gov or call the help desk directly at 802-828-6700 and select option 2.